For YouTube live update after a very busy, windy day across the area. We've had a pretty impactful windstorm across the area. Not so much great impacts when it came to the snow or the rain, but this has been all wind and partially to do with a lot of the moisture that we had last week and into the end of the week, or end of last week and early parts of this week, that helped to make that situation just that much worse. So if you can give me about 30 seconds to a minute, I'll get everything here prepped behind the scenes, and we'll get started with this update in full. And I'll try not to take too much of your time as we go throughout the next little bit. But I will show you the storm system that has triggered all of the active weather today, and it's this low pressure system with a strong cold front that has been pushing through western Montana and is now over across central and eastern Montana, now moving into the Dakotas. And that's going to continue to create some problems out that direction, as there are blizzard warnings for parts of North Dakota for sure. I believe even parts of northeast Montana have some of those blizzard warnings as well. And that is correct. So, and this storm continues to be quite impactful across the region. So like I said, if you can give me about another 30 seconds or so, I'll have everything here working behind the scenes, and we will get started with this. Perfect. All right, everything is working like I was hoping it would. So I say with that, let us get started. Again, if you're just tuning in, thank you for tuning in this evening. It's been a very busy weather day across western Montana, the winds being the top story of the whole situation. We've seen some very powerful wind gusts, all being driven by that large low pressure system that's moved across the Pacific Northwest, moved into western Montana last night, early this morning, and that cold front really just accelerated those winds, and that continues off into eastern parts of the state. Now, looking at those live conditions, things have quieted down in a big way. We are still looking at some pretty breezy conditions, but our cameras aren't shaking up and down like they have been most of the day. And right now, we're seeing those temperatures behind the cold front, upper 20s in Butte, looking at 30s, Kalispell, Missoula, and Dillon. We've seen some spotty snow showers, especially into northwest and west central Montana, and those winds down towards Dillon still gusting upwards to around 35 miles per hour. And that's going to continue to be the case, I think, for the next little bit, especially down into southwest Montana. But you may be wondering, how strong did the winds get today? And here are some of those notable gusts. The strongest being at just west of Bynum Reservoir, which is on the Rocky Mountain front, to the south of the East Glacier Village area by a fair margin, but a gust of 104 miles per hour coming down off the Rocky Mountain front. Just outside of Big Fork Mount, Aeneas, the sensor up there, 96 miles per hour. Northwest of Polbridge at Hornet Mountain, 93 miles per hour. We even had a gust of 90 here in Missoula at the Highlands Golf Course in the South Hills, and then some reports of 88 and 84 mile per hour winds at Livingston and Bozeman Pass. But just looking at the other screen I have over here, just looking at some of the wind gusts, we saw widespread 60 to 90 mile per hour winds, or at least 60 to 85 mile per hour winds across the region, including a few gusts out towards Avon, near McDonald Pass, 75, 76 miles per hour, just to the north of the Toston, really just to the west of Townsend, an 85 mile per hour gust. We've had gusts in the Crazy Mountains of 93 miles per hour. So really that just kind of gives you the sense that it was a very, very windy day with that cold front that passed through. A lot of these extreme winds happened as that cold front was passing through, and as it did so, we saw numerous trees go down. We saw power outages all over the place. We even had semis getting tipped over. A couple of reports of some semis being toppled over closer to Great Falls. We also had one near Summers on US 93 there on the west side of Flathead Lake. And still, even at this hour, I'm looking at the MDT map, and there's reports of on Highway 200, or near Highway 200 near Thompson Falls, of low-hanging power lines that are still causing issues. We've got blowover warnings on Montana 56 there near Bull Lake. We've had issues near Bull Lake for other reasons as well. Low-hanging power lines on Montana Highway 35 there closer to the Big Fork and Woods Bay area. And we're still looking at issues with down power lines and trees closer to the Alberton area on the frontage road there on the north side of Interstate 90. Still having problems there. Multiple blowover warnings on US 12 up towards Lolo Pass, essentially notifying drivers to watch for fallen trees, watch for debris on the roads. We've got rockfall warnings over on Montana Highway 1 closer to Georgetown Lake just because of the moisture that we've seen. Let's see. I-15 between Butte and the Glen and Melrose areas, so north of Dillon. There's a semi-recovery ongoing right now, potentially due to a knocked over semi. Not confirmed on that, not sure on that on that one for certain. But really, even into southwest Montana, we're still dealing with powerful crosswinds on I-90 through Livingston. High-profile vehicles are being warned to just be aware of that. Southbound lane on Montana 86 up Bridger Canyon. We've got trees blocking the southbound lane. And then areas, again, west of the Townsend and Toston areas, obstructions on, it looks like it's 437. It's not a main highway, but 437 in that area, obstruction blocked lanes due to a down power line. So really, we're just going to continue to see these issues as we go throughout the night. No two ways around it. Down trees, down power lines, still going to be an issue, but we are getting to the backside of this storm system. Winds are coming down, though we could still continue to see some spotty power outages. And this is why we do still have those high wind warnings, really from Interstate 15 and east now. All of them outside of a few are right on I-15. West of that, the winds have calmed down below high wind warning criteria. So overall, it's just the higher elevations between Helena and Butte, and then areas from Bozeman, or the mountains surrounding the Gallatin Valley and the Madison River valleys south towards West Yellowstone, Big Sky, the Emigrant area, Paradise Valley, and Northern Park counties, where we still have those for a couple of more hours. And we did have the winter storm warning up here for the West Glacier region, but that has been allowed to expire. I do want to confirm, though, I think there is a winter weather advisory that has replaced it. And I got to see if this is for... No, this is actually going to be for the next storm for that winter weather advisory. So we'll get into that one here in just a second. And I don't have a graphic for it, but I do want to point attention to the Yak River near Troy. We do still have a flood advisory for the Yak River in that area. We did see those water levels rise up to just shy of minor flood stage this afternoon. We reached, I believe it was 7.93 feet on the flood gauge. Minor flood stage starts at 8 feet. So that's where we crested. It's slowly starting to go back down. I think it's around 7.67 feet right now. So the water remains high up there on the Yak River, but the flooding concerns are slowly starting to go down. And I think we will continue to see improving conditions as we head over the next 24 to 48 hours. One other note that I want to make about the winds, even though we are still seeing those come down, power outages are still an issue. And if I can update the power outage map, I'll just kind of go through this. Statewide, we're looking at 47,000 customers that are still out. And let me just move the camera around. I can show you this on the other screen. Just got to get it into a better position here. So 47,000 customers are still without power based on the power outage map. This is just an approximation, but this gets the sense and the idea of what we're dealing with. Overall, we have been seeing improvements to these numbers throughout the evening. We've seen these numbers coming down for most of our counties, especially towards Flathead, where we still have about 9,800 customers without power, but that was up as high as about 16 to 18,000 earlier on in the day. Lincoln County still over 5,400 without power, and just doing a comparison, that's about 43 to 44% of the county that still does not have power. For Flathead County, that's about 19% of the county. Then we continue down towards Jefferson County, where about 67, 2/3 of the county is without power, customer-wise. Just shy of 4,500 customers there. Ravalli County, we were as high as about 7,000 to 8,000 customers earlier today. We're down to 4,000, but still plenty of folks without power there. Mineral County, 4,002 customers. The big number here is that one. The outage percentage is 80% of the county does not have power in Mineral County right now. So that's one that hopefully we can get our power crews in there to be able to get the power back to those folks, especially as we get to see temperatures into the 20s and 30s overnight tonight. Lake County, we're at 3,800 roughly customers without power. Sanders County, about 3,500 customers, where that's about 37%, 36 to 37% of the county. And then Missoula County, where we have about 3,000 customers without power still at this time. But you see all of the colors here, all including places further out of our area, but Yellowstone County, Stillwater, Sweetgrass, Park County seeing power outages there. Choteau, Hill, Blaine, and Ponderay County are dealing with power outages as well. But the highest ratios of people without power come down to Mineral, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Sanders counties at this time. So that's kind of a look at power out. Again, we should see improvements continuing as we go throughout the night, hopefully sooner rather than later. But with the amount of trees down, the power lines that got knocked down, it's going to take power crews a little while to get to everybody. And we'll continue to track this as we go into tomorrow. So if you know anybody who doesn't have power, make sure to just try and check on them if you can, and make sure if they need anything, always be a good neighbor to those who might need it right now. As there's a lot of people that are picking up some pieces right now, especially with all the tree damage that we're dealing with. And this is, again, has been a widespread event, so it's not just one area seeing these heavy impacts. It's really the entire western Montana region, and now going into central and eastern Montana as well. So that's my 2 cents there. As I move forward, again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask those, and I'll try and answer them the best I can. Now, for the rest of the night tonight, we are going to continue to see those winds subside, but still sustained out of the south and west. 10 to 25 miles per hour gusts, 25, 30, maybe even 40 miles per hour. I think the likelihood of power outages is down into the low to moderate category, but with the damage that has already been done to the trees, we could see a few more spotty power outages happen as we go throughout the rest of the night. So going into radar, we're seeing those snow bands. This has been our biggest, I'll say, precipitation issue for the afternoon and evening. We've seen snow bands develop across northwest, west central Montana. You see they're pretty narrow in nature, but in those bands you could see some gustier winds starting to cause some issues, and that may be where if we do see some more power outages, that would be a possibility. But with those snow bands, you could see some quickly reduced visibility, maybe some snowfall rates fast enough that we see some slushy accumulations, but outside of that, not expecting a whole way of impact as the moisture, essentially the system starves itself of the moisture moving off further to the east, but bigger impacts outside of our area, again, into parts of northeast Montana and North Dakota with these winds and some additional snowfall that is expected tonight. One last thing that I do want to show are the storm reports, and this is going to pull up a lot of icons. Let me try and filter these out really quick just to kind of give you a sense of a little more of what we're looking at. I'm going to take out the non-thunderstorm wind gusts just so you can see these icons. And each one of these that you're seeing here, and I'm going to move this over a little bit, that start over towards Spokane and Lewiston and move across the area, those are each individual wind damage reports, be it from trees down, power lines down, semis down. Each one of these is indicating that over the last, that's over the last 12 hours. I'll bump it up to 24 hours since there were a few more that were before 12 hours ago. So that happened before 9:30 in the morning. But all of these are those wind damage reports. We're probably talking specific damage reports anywhere from about 60 to 100 across the region. But localized reports that haven't made their way back to the National Weather Service, those are going to be quite high. Even just some minor damage reports and things of that nature. So if you have any photos or videos from this storm, be it from the damage, even just some of the ongoing impacts of it, say you took a video of flags flying really hard, or pieces of tree limbs and things like that flying by the window of your home. If you have those photos or videos, certainly feel free to share those with us at nbcmontana.com/chime in. Helps us to continue to build the picture of what has taken place across the area over the last, say, 12 to 18 hours. So, again, we appreciate you watching. We're glad that you're safe and that you all are doing well from this. I know we're still dealing with those power outages, but in general, we're doing okay and getting through this. So before I get a little bit off track, let's jump back in. Let's go to the precipitation side of things. Future Tracker's done a good job picking up on the majority of this moisture. As I slide this back over, starting to really taper off outside of northeast and eastern Montana as a whole. A few spotty showers can't be ruled out in the higher elevations in northwest and west central Montana overnight, but for the most part, we quiet down into Thursday morning, but it's going to be a short-lived break. By the time we get into about midday, this is looking 10 to noon, more showers are starting to develop. This is primarily going to be as snow, with those colder temperatures in place, though. In our lower valleys, as you can see, a little bit of pink and green showing up. We may see that mix in as rain for places like the Missoula, Mission, Bitterroot, and Flathead valleys, but that's still kind of to be determined. We're going to see this moisture continue to increase in coverage through the afternoon, and I think as we get closer to, say, 4 to 6 o'clock, we see a lot more area-wide. We're going to see scattered to widespread snowfall across western Montana, though in our lower elevations, enough warm air may be in place that we see this primarily fall as rain, but there's still some question marks about how quickly that happens. I think for our valleys, a dusting upwards to maybe an inch is most likely for tomorrow before we see that transition over to all rains that warm air noses in, but heavier amounts up in our mountains. And that warm air continues to move in even further as we go later on into Thursday night. So you notice how we're just seeing these pretty narrow lines at 7 o'clock, pretty focused on the valleys on US 93, but you get more and more of that warm air to move in, and we see more in the way of greens and yellows showing up as we get into early Friday morning. But over our passes along the divide, along the state line, we're going to primarily be as snow, and we should stay as snow for the majority of this event. The two exceptions, just because they are lower passes, Lookout and Lolo, we may see at some point a transition over to a little bit of rain, even as we get into Friday morning and this next push of moisture moves through. But then on the backside of this, you see places like Butte, Bozeman. For the most part, we transition back over to snow into Friday afternoon. So it's going to be this little bit of I'll call it a back and forth. We'll go from snow, or I guess I should start, yeah, that's right. Snow over to rain, and then back up to snow as we go from Thursday afternoon to Thursday night, Friday morning, where we're in the rain in the valleys, and then we'll go back to snow in those locations as we get into Friday evening and Saturday morning as the system, this next wave of moisture begins to push through, and we get another push of cold air into the region. Now, I'll say additional snowfall, but accumulating snowfall from this next wave is primarily going to be focused up in our mountains, though again, valleys, like I said, a dusting upwards to an inch, maybe an inch and a half if you get underneath some heavier snow bands for a little more time will be possible, but we do have a greater likelihood of accumulating snowfall down here into Friday afternoon and evening across our pass areas. So you see anywhere from 6 to maybe 16 inches. Lookout, Lolo, Lost Trail passes. Marias Pass looking at about 4 to 8. Wouldn't surprise me if we're more into that 6 to 12 inch range from Marias and Rogers passes. But McDonald, Homestake, Monida, maybe a little bit lacking in the amount of snowfall. Bozeman, we get an extra push of around 4 to 8 as well. And this is why we have those winter weather advisories for the West Glacier region, the lower Clark Fork region, the southern Clearwater Mountains, Bitterroot and Sapphire Mountains, and northwest Beaverhead County. And some of these are new, so let me make sure I get the correct information for you this evening with these advisories. Just got to get that pulled up here really quick. So looking at those for the Lower Clark Fork region, this begins tomorrow at 1 p.m., continuing through 11 a.m. on Saturday, and I think most of these will probably be that same time frame, but I'll let you know if this is different. Accumulations of around 5 to 9 inches at Lookout Pass, specifically gusts as high as 35 miles per hour. For the Bitterroot and Sapphire Mountains and the Clearwater Mountains, we're talking about 5 to 9 inches at Lolo and Lost Trail passes, and potentially 9 to 15 inches at higher elevations above those passes, winds as high as 40 miles per hour. Going into the West Glacier region, we're looking at 2 to 4 inches of snow at West Glacier, in the community of West Glacier, 6 to 8 inches up at Marias Pass, and 8 to 12 inches above Marias Pass. So travel impacts for each of these passes that I'm mentioning will be possible. And then for Northwest Beaverhead County, including Wise River, Big Hole Pass, Wisdom, Chief Joseph Pass, and Dewey, we're looking at about 2 to 6 inches of snow at lower elevations. And then from about pass level and higher, we're talking a foot or more in those areas with winds as high as around 55 miles per hour. So that's a breakdown of those. Those are all going to be running again from tomorrow afternoon through early Saturday morning. That said, we're still going to be looking at above average temperatures for most of the region, if not all of the region, over the next 5 days. We'll see high temperatures in the 40s for Missoula. A lot of places will be in the 30s and low 40s for tomorrow and Friday. A bit of a cool down into Saturday, but you see we're looking at those temperature at 37 degrees on Saturday. Sunday, 35 degrees and 40 degrees there on Monday as we start to warm back up. And just because I saw that comment pop up, you may have missed what I was talking about earlier. 101 mile per hour winds at East Glacier. And we, as you say, we failed to mention it. One note, East Glacier technically is not part of our viewing area. Marias Pass is really the limit of it. But I did make a mention of the 104 mile per hour gust down towards Bynum Reservoir just a short time ago, as well as during our 6 o'clock show. So you don't have to watch our coverage. That's okay. That's understandable. But just to let you know, we did bring up the 104 mile per hour gust, even though I didn't specifically say the 101 mile per hour gust right there in East Glacier. But again, some crazy winds out there, no doubt about it. So getting back on track here, we're going to be looking at one last thing. We've got a huge game as the Bobcats and Grizzlies face off in Brawl of the Wild Part 2 on Saturday. I know there's going to be a lot of people traveling for that game. While we are dealing with some of the shower activity back into northwest and west central Montana Saturday morning, we're going to be looking at pretty quiet conditions, all things considered. Down towards Bozeman, we're going to be looking at mostly clear to partly cloudy skies. I could see those winds anywhere from 20 to 30 miles per hour. And looking at the potential of some impacts, at least when it comes to the wind, there is the chance for a few flurries, but I think that's looking less and less likely the later on into the week that we've gone. So overall, we're looking at a pretty good setup, at least in comparison to what it could be for that big game for the FCF semifinals there in Bozeman, as the Cats and Grizz play Brawl of the Wild Part 2, or as I've heard from other people say, the Brawl for It All. Don't know how catchy that is, but I like it, so maybe we'll roll with it. But that's everything that I had for tonight. So again, the main takeaways, again, last chance if you have any questions, feel free to ask those. We're going to be looking at the potential of some more strong winds tonight, though they're subsiding in a big way. We're going to see those down, sustained 15 to 25, maybe 15 to 30 miles per hour tonight. Gusts upwards to around 40, 45, primarily down in southwest Montana. And that's where those high wind warnings remain in place for a couple of more hours before they're allowed to expire. And then our attention will turn to that next little winter storm that's going to be moving in for tomorrow. We're going to start off as snow for most areas, including for our valleys. Warm air starts to move in, snow levels rise into Thursday night, Friday morning, upwards to around, say, 5, maybe even, I'd say about 5,000 feet. A few areas may just be as high as 6,000 feet before they start crashing back down for Friday afternoon. So we'll go from, valleys will probably go from snow to rain, back over to snow once again into the overnight period. And then we should start to quiet down. But for our valleys, upwards to maybe an inch, inch and a half. I think most areas we're probably talking at dusting to a half an inch. Up over our mountain passes, where we have the winter weather advisories, Lookout, Lolo, Marias, and Lost Trail, we're talking potentially anywhere from 6 to, say, 16 inches of snow, more likely in that 4 to 10 range. Or, sorry, 5 to 10 range for most of those passes, though some localized heavier totals can't be ruled out. And then higher elevations will be even higher than that. And then we'll start to quiet down briefly into Saturday and Sunday for parts of the area, especially southwest Montana. But no surprise, here comes our next storm. That's going to be arriving late Sunday and into Monday and Tuesday. That's going to bring us another round of showers to the area. Right now, it does look like that may be more another round of the rain-snow mix, and that may continue all the way into Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, but maybe a little bit more cold air gets in for Christmas itself, so we can get a white Christmas here in western Montana. So, overall, I think that's roughly where we are for tonight. Thank you for spending about 25-30 minutes with me tonight. And of course, tune into our live broadcast coming up here in 20 minutes. We'll have the latest news and weather updates, power outages, things of that nature, as we continue to really just gather the data, all of the information of the damage that we've seen, and hopefully more of the recovery process as we go over the next couple of days. And then hopefully we can just have a relatively quiet weekend, quiet couple of days between all of the flooding issues, now the wind issues. I think we're ready for a little bit of a break, just some nice snowfall to get us into the holiday spirit a little bit more, and I think we'll be in good shape. So thanks again for tuning in. Again, if you have any photos or videos, NBCMontana.com/chime-in is your place to share them. And tune in tomorrow morning for NBC Montana Today, running from 5 to 7 a.m. So I'll see you all in the next one. I'll likely do another one of these as we get into Friday ahead of Brawl of the Wild Part 2. So have a great rest of the night and a great next couple of days, and I'll see you all in the next one. With NBC Montana, I'm meteorologist Mitchell Coombs.